Welcome to the very first episode of the Ryan, Richard, and Jordan show. Richard mentioned it at the end last week as we were wrapping things up. He was noting that Shanna likes to hear Jordan, like he adds some class to it. So I was like, you know what? Maybe we should just bring this guy on the show and make it official because he does. You do like straighten out Richard and I. So we were like, you know what? You'll be the glue, the mold that keeps us all together. So welcome officially.
Well, I mean, I think Richard gives great points. I mean, Ryan, I got to balance you out. You're a wild card.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It's appreciated. So can the two of you, while I do all my sharing of all the live shows to all of our platforms, can you guys talk about what you're drinking today for our Oscar special?
Bullet bourbon.
What's it called?
Bullet bourbon. And nobody ever knows what it is when I go to restaurants. I'm kind of like disappointed. Yeah. Not that difficult.
I got to visit a distillery. It's an awesome place. Stitzel & Weller. Got to go in Louisville.
Oh, wait, you posted, and I was rather jealous.
Yeah. Bullet bourbon, and where's the place at?
It's called main distillery is called Stitzel & Weller, and it's in Louisville, Kentucky. It's like in 10-15 minutes downtown.
Okay. Yeah, every time I go to Kentucky, I don't go to Kentucky, so I've never been there. So I realize lying to our listeners. Where should Shannon and I unfortunately, doing comic book shows, you wind up doing a lot of just like, oh, we went to Boston, we went here, but we were doing comic book shows. We have less comic book shows now. Like, where should we go? Like, where do you guys recommend is a must go place?
Texas.
Tech? Okay, well maybe okay. Now Jordan to balance him out. Okay. So my follow-up, the reason for going to Texas was I don't know if I love their politics. Florida, I don't know if I love their politics, but Miami feels like a nice, they probably don't care about the don't say gay
separate
part.
State.
Yeah, Miami's we're going to say gay. We're going to do whatever we want. So don't even.
Wait, I just got to say something real quick before Jordan chimes in. So our director of welcome at the hotel with us, or at the W, he worked at the W Miami, and before we had everything in place for the cords and everything, there was no holes yet. Cords for the computers were still coming over the top of the counter. And I walk in and he was like, dude, do you see this? This is ghetto. And I know ghetto. I worked at the W Miami. I was like, damn, bro, it's like that. So yeah, Miami's the wild card. Speaking of wild cards,
you know what? You gave me an amazing segue, but I'd be jumping into. Speaking of Miami, welcome to Miami.
Miami.
All right. So, what you listen? Spoilers. We are going to be cursing. We are going to be saying, "Keep your MF name." Maybe we'll just say keep your. Okay. You know what? I thought he said MFer. He doesn't. He just says, "Keep your effing." Keep my wife's effing name out of your
fucking mouth.
Yeah, something like that, right? So we will be cursing a lot if the kids are in the background, or just chat us up and say stop cursing. But we're going to do the news with Richard because honestly, take away that slap, and the whole issue there, which will take up 40 minutes of our podcast. There was some decent stuff that happened at the Oscars. So cue the news with Richard, or if you don't have it, just say, now it's time for news with Richard.
And now it's time for the news with Richard. Jordan, you haven't seen this one yet. Here we go. We're bringing things back as Ryan continues to focus and not let his ADD. Well, actually, my boss would say otherwise because I'm always posting on the page. But here we go. Oh, we're back on track.
That was good. All right. So the Oscars, by the way, 1 year anniversary of our first official with my name in the tagline. So kind of cool that 1 year, almost 1 year to the day, Jordan's been added to the tagline. So very, very cool. All right. So the news, the Oscars were last night. Did anyone see it? Or anyone even hear about it? Or was everyone's, by the way, this is why I'm doing this news part. In what should be a day that we were championing Coda, we were championing Encanto, we were talking about Ariana DeBoer's win, historic win. It was just 8,000 memes about Will and Chris Rock and Jada. So let's cover some of the news. So for the first time ever, 3 women hosted the Oscars. It was cool that they didn't do to bring Chris Rock back in. Like Chris Rock would do like 15 minutes of stand up. Other hosts have done that kind of just, Billy Crystal does a huge number. The three women, Wanda Sykes, Amy Schumer, and Regina King. And Regina King, please interrupt me at any point. Well, Regina King is not a traditional stand up. She's just a comedic actor, right? Yeah.
But, yeah. Like definitely just a strong comedic actor. I would say.
She's just right. Yeah, I think of the Scary Movies. Is that Regina King from the Scary Movies? Or am I totally off base?
No, Regina King definitely in Jerry Maguire though, right?
Nope, that's Regina. No,
you're talking about Regina Hall.
Yeah. So ready? We're going to restart the podcast. Regina Hall was the host of the Oscars. Regina King from 227 and Jerry Maguire. Regina Hall was an Oscar. Right. Yes. So behind the scenes, we were joking that, Jordan was like, hey, Richard's got it down. I have to keep Ryan straight here. Yep. He leads off with, hey, all black women named Regina look alike, So, I mean, Hall and King. Yeah. So, and again, Regina King has been at the Oscars, like winning and crushing the last few years. So, Regina Hall, Amy Schumer, Wanda Sykes. I had some people said they didn't love it. So again, anyone listening, put in the chat whether you like them, what you thought was strong about the hosts. I thought it was fine. There was a big time crunch. There's always a big time crunch thing with the Oscars, trying to make it into a show. So this year the big, controversy was about 8 or 9 awards were given out beforehand, from like 6 to 8 before the show started, that they just filmed and then just kind of interjected, threw them into the middle of the broadcast. I didn't hate that. That is me that is me not sitting there thinking about the people who work on those projects and who are those people, like costume design and editing and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to in any way disrespect that. As in terms of a show, I thought it like flowed, just inserting it like that. But again, the three hosts, they did a nice opening monologue and they each had their own little like interjection parts, but they did a couple skits, and I don't love skits unless you're really, really good at skits. And I personally didn't love any of the skits they did, but again,
only Billy Crystal could nail it with the songs, right?
Yeah. I mean, he nailed it with the songs, and again, like they try, but what you do is, brings me to the news item number 2. Regina Hall came out for her kind of standalone thing, and she did again, up for interpretation. She did what seemed to be a cute bit where she was like, hey, there's some people whose COVID test got messed up and we might need to retest you. And then she named all like the handsome Bradley Cooper, Timothy Chalamet, like, I got to take these guys in the back and test them. All right. It did get a little raunchy. And then, and then again, like she potentially was naming people who were quite young. She did call out and try to get Will to come up, but then said to Will, oh, I can't have you come up without Jada's consent, which we will discuss Jada and Will's marriage later. So how did that line look? I don't know. Like that line's been kind of ignored amongst all the other controversy today. But then I
saw one article that it made, just one though.
Right. But then she proceeds to, as she's leaving, pat down Thanos and pat down Aquaman, like very aggressively. One of the things, a man could never have done that. A man could never have done, the grab a woman kind of like, but again, it was one of those like, okay, I know what they were going for, but it went on for like 6 minutes. It was a long bit, so that was interesting. Again, I think in a normal year without Will and Chris, we would have seen more coverage on that. And again, it's something that's overshadowed. Ariana DeBose from West Side Story was the first openly gay person of color to win an Oscar. But honestly, like looking at my notes, and I made a comment on some people's page, and I kind of got some feedback. She might be the first openly queer person to ever like win an Oscar. Like Jodie Foster, I believe, came out afterwards. Kevin Spacey, I don't think, was openly gay when he won. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things of like, there's been plenty of gay or bi actors over the years who have won, but at the time, like Marlon Brando in 1954 was not openly bi. Or when he won The Godfather, he was not openly bi. So it's an interesting thing. Like, it's an easy thing to be like, oh, she's the first openly gay person of color, but yeah, she might actually be the first person who was openly gay when they won the award. So a really cool speech, a speech that we should be seeing more of today. Not to be the broken record, but other news. But a really, really, really cool idea. So for the little ones, they announced and promoted the idea that we don't talk about Bruno, the number one song in the country for most of the last 2 months. Which I'm sure it's been heard in the Mercer household, or the Oppenheimer household a lot. The list
over and over
again. First off, you put it on at like 9:45, because that's when the kids, like you open the show with that, so maybe the kids are open it, but you put it on at 9:45, and then they proceed to not do the song. They do the opening part of the song where the husband and wife sing about it, and then Megan Thee Stallion comes out, sings a couple verses, and then I think please again apologize me if I'm using Latino wrong, but like two popular Latino performers come out and sing but their verse is about we don't talk about the Oscars, and it's all like Oscar verses. They just did not sing the whole song, even close to the whole song. I was looking, and again, I don't know if they didn't have certain people in place. I know Lin-Manuel, his wife and child had COVID. So even though he was negative, or his wife had COVID, him and his child were negative, but he chose to stay home, to be safe. But so I don't know if that played a role. But again, you didn't know. That was silly of me. You're not just asking Megan Thee Stallion and these other two performers to jump out and throw together a piece. So again, I don't quite know what that's about. Why they didn't do the whole song. Again, not that 7-year-olds were up at 9 o'clock going, "Whoa, you've changed the script on me." But it was also you're not showing it. You're not showing your kids that performance this afternoon because you're like, "All right, guys, yeah, no, it's So
it sounds like they tried to do the MTV Movie Awards thing, just tons of parody, tons of switching up songs, taking things that are popular, and don't get me wrong. There was a bit when Mission Impossible 2 came out. Or was coming out that summer, and I can't think of his name. Ben Stiller.
Sure.
Do you remember he played? It was like a skit
where he was Tom Cruise's
stunt double.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. That was golden. I still go on YouTube and check that out every once in a while. But
no, MTV's first few years of their movie awards, they have some really good parodies.
Solid parodies.
Yes. Right. But again, nothing quite like that. So I mean, they weren't on that level of because again, the Oscars does try to be a little stuffy still. The next kind of memorable, interesting thing was the In Memoriam, which every year the In Memoriam always will make the news because they forgot someone. This year they put a little different spin. Normally in the In Memoriam, they kind of highlight some of the bigger stars or more popular actors who've passed with maybe showing a popular clip from a movie. This time they actually had friends or colleagues come out and speak about them. Someone spoke about Sidney Poitier. Bill Murray came out to speak about Ivan Reitman. Jamie Lee Curtis came out to speak about Betty White. But they had a full-blown chorus in there singing, and it wasn't just like a sad song. It was they were kind of sad songs with a little bit of a kick to them, a little bit of upbeat, but they kept focusing on the performance. So in the background was, so it was just a little bit of again, you're the Oscars. You should be able to figure this out. Split screen or hey, don't highlight the or stop doing the slideshow when you highlight the singer. Again,
I'm going to circle back on that one.
Yeah, it was one of those things that in a normal year that might have been the big news story. And again, what should have also, along with Ariana DeBose winning, what also should have just been overwhelmingly on our news feeds today was CODA, which stands for Children of Deaf Adults, made history as it was the first full-blown streamer to win. I know a couple other they were out in the movies and streamed a little bit, or CODA was just Apple TV for the last 6 months, only on Apple TV. Wins for best movie, best screenplay, and then best supporting actor. And again, the first time a deaf male has won a Best Actor award. Really, really tear-invoking speeches, again, for all they have to overcome. So that was a really, really, really nice moment. And it was kind of cool to see interpreters up there just really spotlighting the deaf community. And then finally, I don't know if either of you saw this. Either you see Lady Gaga and Liza Minnelli at the end of the show?
I know you told me to check it out, but
yeah. Yeah, so the end of the show, and again, in all like the chaos of like the night, like, you know, you're like, you just kind of look up because they always do this. They always like rush that last thing. Like it always feels rushed. And all I see is Liza Minnelli being wheeled out or like wheeled out in a wheelchair. Lady Gaga's with her. And Liza Minnelli is, I'm trying to be really respectful for this because I don't really know the full situation. She's, you know, she's out of it. She is out of it. Now, on Liza Minnelli's best day, she always kind of played like a, oh, darling, what's going on? Like she played her mother, Judy Garland, very well. Like, what is happening, darling? You know, but she was doing that, you know, on, you know, and we're like, Lady Gaga's like, all right, we're out here to announce the award, you know, and she's like, what are we here for? Like, it was just really like, what's going on? And Lady Gaga was great because she was like, all right, listen, we're going to announce the awards. I got you, you know. And
great at recovering.
Yeah, she was really good at recovering.
Yeah.
And again, he was like, okay, this is a choice. This was a choice, guys. You know, but again, at the end, you know, they read the nominees and then she let her read it and she said Coda, you know. So it was, but it was like, that was interesting that, you know, what was up with Liza? You know, I didn't realize she was that sick that she needed to be in a wheelchair. She clearly, I don't think was at 100%. You know, it was, you know, so a really interesting full night of news. But again, I think the big news that everyone wants to know about is the twins had their wellness test today. What was up with their hemoglobin scores?
The hemoglobin scores, Axe and Jade had their well visits today, and apparently Axe's hemoglobin is great.
That's awesome.
And James is good because he needs to eat more meat, if I heard Monica correctly. Okay. And there's some mom out there that's like, nope, you got that wrong. Right. It's all backwards. It's all backwards.
If you said Richard and Jordan, name all the things the kids got evaluated on today, I would have been like, height, weight. You know, hemoglobin was going to come in like never. Like I was never going to say hemoglobin. So
yeah. So because
does that mean they got a needle? Then they
yeah. So they got a shot, but that was different. Monica was like, because they came home, and I'll be very honest. I'm sure neither of you will be surprised. Nobody listening will be surprised. As soon as I see the boys, I'm like on the ground, like hand on the back of their head in a snatch wrestling position, ready to just wrestle with them.
Sure.
Monica tells me that one day I'm going to accidentally puncture their internal organs with the way I, you know, just mom worry stuff. So, but so today she was like, no, they got a shot and they got their finger pricked, and I'm like, why they get their finger pricked? Monica was like, because they had to check their hemoglobin. I was what? I was like, their hemoglobin. And she was like, yeah, Axe is good, and Axe is great, and James is good, and he needs to eat a little more meat. But then I was like, well, to be fair, Axe just straight up steals the food off of James's plate. Like he just puts it in. Oh wait, so James Gordon is 1 inch taller. Axe Paul is 1 pound heavier. Even match. Okay, it's not a catch weight match. It's fair per mom.
I mean, to be honest, I did not know you needed to check hemoglobin, so this is a brand new thing for me.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah.
Listen, that makes two of us. Monica will say they have a doctor's appointment, and I'll be like, okay, I'll take them. And then me every time, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to expect here. Like,
I mean, listen, I didn't I think Jordan and I are both cat parents. I didn't know like Shannon, one of Shannon's cats is diabetic. Who knew? Never would have thought that like the cat was, was going to be diabetic.
They could have a diabetic cat, yeah.
And so what's fun is to watch your girlfriend give a cat a needle twice a day. Like, oh hey, we can't go to Kentucky to see that story because I have to give my diabetic cat a needle twice a day. So, yeah, right, yeah, And then again, what I love too is like, Richard, I hear you're getting surgery later in the year. Like, yeah, is Shannon going to help? No, Shannon said you can take care of yourself. You'll be fine.
You can stick that needle in your own ass cheek.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. You can. Yeah, right. Please. So when I had cancer, I had I had the scar was on my back with the skin cancer that was removed. Rather, the skin, where I could not like change the bandages and stuff, and it was nope. You can figure it out. You got this. So,
hold on. I know Monica's here. If Monica's chatting, that means she's interested in the topic, and she's going to be chatting away instead of just joining us as a guest. But mom says also check their vision with some fancy camera. Despite Ryan's vision issues, let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about Bruno either. The boys are all good so far.
Awesome.
So So you know what? I'm going to use it as a segue, Richard, if you don't mind.
That was a great segue, right?
Monica just finished reading Will Smith's biopic or biography.
Yeah, biography. Yeah,
the book. Yep. She loved it, couldn't get out of it, and she has some very strong feelings about everything that has transpired over the last 24 hours. She is, and hashtags are out there, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Team Will. She is Team Will. So,
let's set the story of what happened. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So last night for me, I'm just laying there in bed. Monica passed out.
Not watching the Oscars. Right?
No, I'm not watching it. Luckily, Richard was there to watch it. Yeah, right. I go on Instagram and Dana White says, "Wow, this was better than the UFC," something like that. But I was just like, "Wait, what is going on?" I was like, "Oh!" I was like, "No." Then instantly I go to Google. I'm like, "No, is that real?" Go to Facebook because somebody else was like, "Did that just happen?" And I was like, "Do I wake Monica up and tell her about this?" Like, I really feel like I should. She was actually mad today that I didn't. But so Jordan, you haven't said a lot, so I'm gonna kick it to you. What transpired last night? I know everybody saw it. Everybody's got Facebook, but for those who are listening later on or a couple days or weeks down the line, we're talking the Oscars. What transpired between Will Smith and Chris Rock?
Well, I was waiting to jump in and talk about right first. I'm drinking. My brother-in-law made a cocktail, an 84-ounce cocktail for everybody at my in-law's house, and I just dubbed it Rage Juice because of what transpired last night. But I mean, I did the same thing as Ryan. Like, I wasn't really watching the Oscars, just goofing off with my wife, and then next thing you know, I'm on Instagram, and then you just see the video, and you see out of context, and you're like, "What the hell just happened?" And then, behold, you see the whole video, and then you see like the reaction part afterwards. I immediately, I mean, it took some time to digest it, but like I felt two different ways. Like obviously yesterday, I felt like, trying to understand the situation where like he felt someone said something inappropriate about his wife, and like everybody, I think on this podcast, like someone says something about her, and especially it's like a deep cutting thing that has like a medical issue to it or something that is very hurtful or cuts deep. I would do the same thing. I would react emotionally and do something that probably wouldn't be my normal judgment, and I think that's how a lot of people feel. I mean, put the other things to the side that's been happening over the last couple of years with Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. It's just, it's a husband trying to stand up for his wife and felt like somebody said want to cross the line, and in that moment he reacted in a way that he probably wouldn't. But like this morning I was just like, yeah, like that's kind of really bad. And then you start seeing different articles pop up where, other things that other comedians have said or some other things that Chris Rock has said. So it feels like, for me, it feels like something more is going on there. It's not just that one-off incident. And I'm not saying it's exactly with Chris Rock, but maybe it's just a culmination of these different things. And that was just a straw about the camel's back. And he just reacted in a way after dealing with so much stuff on probably social media, or maybe just a buildup of different comedians saying things about his wife. And he was just like, I had enough. And I read some like clips from the book, and it seems like he dealt with a lot of things with his father, and his father being abusive to his mom. And I think with that, he just had especially putting it out in a book like that is very cathartic, but it also brings up these old memories. So maybe he just was dealing with some old issues, and on top of that, having that happen and feel like he didn't want to be the victim again in a situation and that involves someone he loves. And he's, obviously got on stage and had to handle some business, unfortunately, in Philadelphia fashion. But there's so many different layers to it. And I feel like it's more nuanced conversation. But for me, I feel like at the end of the day, there's definitely some more going on to it. And I know we're going to talk about the entanglement and stuff later, but I feel like there's a lot to unpack.
Right. And I think you're right. I think it's even more than the entanglement. And then if you listen to his acceptance speech, that was raw. Yeah, I hate when people talk in certainties, rather, but I feel certain that if that incident doesn't happen and when he wins, you're getting a lot of like woo, like whoa, like that, like almost the Tom Cruise Will Smith, like
stand up,
whoa, like whoa, yeah. like wow, like that kind of thing. And you just got a man like just pure, again, like pure emotions, like of just like, yeah. And Jordan, you really nailed it. Like, yeah, like again, and everything Monica's saying in our comments, like, yeah, like he did not stand up for his father's abuse of his mom. Like, you know, and in his speech, he even's like, things are complicated with my mom, you know, and then it was a throwaway line of like, my mom's with her knitting community in Philly, like, you know, like, which again is cracks you up, like, dude, mom, he never got mom to move out to California, you know, the Bel Air, you know, you never got mom to move out there to, you know, I'm sure he lives in, you know, wherever he lives, but in California, but again, it's just that crazy, like, yeah, there's a lot, and you know, I have a substitute who works in my school building. She's an older woman, and we connected a couple years ago because, like, she doesn't watch TV. Her and her husband go, all they do, and unfortunately before pandemic, all they ever did was go to movies. They went to Broadway shows or movies. Like, they saw every movie, you know, out there. And so she's really into the Oscars, and we've connected over the years. Again, I think she's in her early 70s. But today, and I'll share this really quick, amusing story. I had to go see her right away to connect. And I'm like, what did you think of Chris Rock? She's like, oh, Chris Rock, always funny, always funny. Oh, my goodness. And Will Smith's speech was so great. And I'm like, why is she not connecting the two? And I saw her later in the day, and she is, like I said, a 70-year-old woman. She doesn't have Twitter or Facebook. So to her, what she saw was funny Will Smith going up there, faking a punch, sitting back down, and then they turned off the sound on the American broadcast. So she wasn't really paying attention. So she didn't see him mouth, you know, keep your name out of, you know, keep my wife's name. So she just thought it was, you know, like, okay. So it was like, yeah. So then I had to show her the video, and she's like, it's just funny because she's in her 70s. You need to text me that video right away. Like, you know, and yeah.
I got to ask you something, because as you've learned from the intro, George and I did not actually watch the Oscars in its entirety because we were YouTubing or Instagramming. What did they show? Because you're about to change something that I was going to bring up later on. Sure. Did they show it in its entirety? Because here's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump on this part right now. So one of my thoughts on this entire matter just became something so much bigger, because you and I, Richard, have talked about the Oscars and how we feel that they've gotten off track, or the actors and actresses tend to get off track during the ceremony and things like that. From what I saw the whole online clip, and I told Monica, like, one of the things I was going to mention tonight was I really feel that the Academy did a horrible job of addressing that, because early 90s, even late 90s, that would have been like, boom, commercial break. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't have even let Chris Rock talk anymore. It just would have been like, cut off, get everybody off stage, cool everybody down, that whole thing. But you're saying that the editing team actually cut out a little bit of it to where it didn't look as bad as
no. All they did was they turned off the sounds.
So they did show that. They did show the little back and forth.
Right, they did show the little back and forth, except we didn't hear it. We didn't hear it, you know, and so that's why when you see it, it's the Japanese or Australian or another countries, you know, where they didn't turn off. So they didn't, you know, so you didn't see that, and then and when you're sitting there going like, all right, he cursed, but again, like Will Smith doesn't really. So again, like in that 30 seconds it happened, you're just sitting there thinking 1,000 things when you're watching live. Like, yeah, no, Will seems, but again, I've seen Will do the fake, I'm going to knock you out. Like you've seen Will Smith do that shtick. So like, and again, like there's no way any human being is walking up to the stage to really punch someone. So you're like, this is interesting. But then, and that's when I knew it was real, was when Chris Rock was like, all right, so documentaries. We're here to give a documentary to the, we're here to give an Oscar to the best. And like, he was like, but again, also, if I'm allowed to give him props, he got through it, you know, totally, and then
100%, I would have crumbled. I would have cried.
Announced the winners. Yeah. He announced the winners. And then again, this is funny because it's such a big story now. Like, there was Questlove winning an Oscar, which I'm sure goes with a Grammy, which probably even goes with maybe as an Emmy, you know, like he's on his way to EGOT, you know, like Questlove, like a drummer who leads a band, you know, like Philly, like again, you know, you would have gotten the him and Will, like, you know, pounding, you know, like moment, and Questlove's up there who now wants to speak about what a a private, like his documentary about the revolution will be televised, and like, his dad has passed, and he's clutching the necklace representing his dad, and his mom's up in the, and all the rest of America is doing is on their Twitter and Facebook. And, but yeah, it was interesting where you're like, yeah, again, until Facebook and Twitter were kind of like, nope, no, that all happened. That was all real. You didn't imagine it. You didn't misinterpret something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I just got to say something real quick. I told Monica
sure.
this.
That's how it works.
Very surprised, not just because of everything that transpired and every little piece of it. Prior to last night and that whole thing, never would have thought Will Smith had the, should I say, guts, nerve to do it. Always thought he was a little more reserved, definitely an entertainer, big personality, but Jordan got something. So I didn't see it coming. I was a little surprised. I never saw that as something Will Smith would do, but I see Jordan has something he's going to add to the conversation.
No, I didn't want to interrupt, but
it's cool.
And this kind of correlates to like us in culinary school. Like, you're trained to work a certain way, and you're trained to not let your emotions get to you. And obviously, Will Smith, he's from Philadelphia, and I think there's certain ways. I think certain areas or certain demographics handle things like it. Like being on the East Coast, people are really hot tempered, and they're not gonna let people treat them a certain way. And Will Smith being a great actor and obviously being a constant professional, you don't see that side of him. He's still from Philly, so like if people, and he did another interview with some, like, I forget where it was. He was doing some Europe press tour, and somebody tried to do something weird to him, tried to kiss him on the mouth, and he smacked him in the face. So it's not the first time.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah, it's not the first time you've seen something like that. It's just, I mean, I feel like with celebrities, you only see you only see them, being reserved or being at these different events, and they're always just cool, calm, and collective. They're still regular people that obviously get a little hot on the collar and don't respond well to that stuff. And now you're seeing this on the biggest scale on scene, other than like Kanye West and Taylor Swift. Like, have somebody that feels like they're disrespecting your family member. That's a classic in Philadelphia. That's well. And again, that's a very different environment being in the Oscars. But you had to strike a nerve for that to happen. Like, but Will Smith, he's worth millions of dollars, and he would never want to, like, especially on the biggest night of his career, winning an Oscar for Best Actor. He would never want to put that in jeopardy, and it had to be something, either something else or that being the straw on the camel's back that made him do that. And again, it's a situation that I know he regrets, and I know I just saw a thing that he apologized, and I know he's going to try to do the right thing and publicly apologize and go through all the steps, because obviously it was a lapse of judgment. But yeah, that I'm not surprised by that at all, where you see that level of reaction out of somebody, but again, that's all emotional. It's not based in logic, and he got to the point where he was fed up. And again, that's a classic Philly thing where it's going to happen.
I think no, I definitely hear what you're saying, but for me, and you kind of just build your image of somebody off of what you see and what you know.
Of course.
And I guess I always took him for a little bit softer because he doesn't curse in his music. He doesn't really go hard in his rap, which is let's be fair, he does a different style, and he's not like an Eminem. He's not talking about gangbanging and stuff like that. So for me, in my mind, a calmer gentleman was the image, right? And not taking away from him, he had a bad night, he had a bad moment, not saying that he's not a gentleman, saying that he's an awful violent person. But for me, the image had always been clean cut, not cursing in his music, not even getting into any trouble, right? There's not even any trouble. The whole Jada entanglement thing, that's a separate story. No DUIs, not getting into fights in clubs, anything like that. Just like a clean cut, hardworking entertainer who didn't look for any sort of trouble is the vision I had.
Well, and that goes back to the restaurant training. I mean, we've worked in restaurants for a long time, me and you, and like, you have to be a constant professional, and no one's going to see the other side of you until they push you. I mean,
you're much better than me on the floor then.
Well, no, I've had multiple points where like I've got to my breaking point, and I've never had people see the other side of me. And it got to the point where I like probably 6-7 years into working in restaurants and managing, I had that point, and that was the time that people saw behind the veil, and you're like, oh, like he's really upset. That could have escalated really badly. But again,
very quickly.
That's same thing with celebrities. Like they know they can't act like that and I do certain things in public like that, and because and poorly. Obviously, you get a situation where someone wants to sue you, and that's media training. It's the same thing as me and you dealt with in restaurants where like you act a certain way because you're catering to a certain environment, and you never want to act out of that because that's not fitting the norm or fitting what's socially acceptable in that environment. So just because he might do one thing a certain way, especially in his rap or maybe in movies or whatever, doesn't mean that's the true reflection of that person. So there's a lot more that's underneath that we don't get to see. And just like anyone else, I feel like he just got to that point and he was like, enough's enough. And as I mentioned before, with the whole book where he felt like blaming himself for not sticking up for his mom, all that kind of came together and triggered him to do something completely out of character. So not saying that that's not there where he wouldn't stand up normally. This just got to the next degree, and it went a little bit left.
Definitely. It's been interesting to see the responses because we have these responses sometimes, like where you keep seeing people, you see a lot of like, but he was laughing, like, okay, like, right now, like, I guarantee I can say something insulting about Monica, but I'm so freaking funny and witty. Ryan will laugh, and like he might laugh, but dude, if he looks down his phone and Monica's like, dude, he's out of line. He brought up my vacuuming in front of everyone on the podcast, like,
and then I'm like, hey, Richard, hey, that thing you said 2 minutes ago.
Right. Hey, listen, like and again, here's the thing: we're doing this, but yeah, like, and again, like, but my thoughts are, I can't decide if I'm saying the word right. Like, technically he's wrong. Like, there's no there's no doubt about that, And again, like, you see all this thing, like, and so many people are like, well, he was laughing. Why did he get, like, stop it? He looked over. You watch it in the thing. Jada's face goes from smiling and laughing about, whatever the last joke was, which is he made a joke. I'll just tie it on my points real quick. He made a funny Training Day joke about Macbeth and Denzel Washington. All right, which I'm sure you guys are aware. You're not supposed to say Macbeth in the theater. It brings bad luck. You never say the name Macbeth. Chris brought Macbeth and got slapped within 2 minutes. He then made a joke. He then made a joke about Javier Bardem and.
Monica says, what did Richard say about my vacuuming? I was only shooting a scene for Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Fair enough. And you probably have to vacuum because your husband gets on the floor and wrestles with the kids and makes a mess. So anyway, he then makes a joke with Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz, who are a married couple who were both nominated. And he kind of said, like, oh, like, Javi, like, if you win and she doesn't win, like, how's that car ride home?
Well, I saw that.
To which you see Penelope Cruz, like, it did not translate. She was like, I don't understand. Like, and then he immediately just looks over, and I need this answer. I think he either made up the G.I. Jane joke right away, right on his head, or but like, that's why people are like, did anyone edit his? Like, first off, no one's editing Chris Rock's, whatever he's going. Right?
That's not happening.
No, that's not happening. Right. But also, he either made it up when he saw her earlier in the night, rather, like, or he made it up in that moment, like,
I just saw an article that said he did not, it was not rehearsed, it was not in his script, it was just on the fly, yeah.
He sees.
He's doing classic comedian crowd work where he's just like, sees people in a crowd and he's picking on them, talking stuff, and coming up with things on the fly, naturally just kind of build that, like, fill the gap in between him.
Right, because he wasn't supposed to be doing he didn't have a 5-minute slot. He just he had a minute. He was going to vamp for a minute before he said documentaries are an important movie making, and then again he did and again like he says, come on, man, it was a G.I. Jane. Like, it was not, again, 100%. Again, at the moment I was like, first off, and I don't even know. Like, I always do this. I don't know what I'm about to say. Is she looks amazing? Like, she looks amazing. Like, she really. Monica.
Did not translate because Javier and Penelope speak Spanish.
Well,
listen, you're digging a hole, Monica. Now this is not
right. So, all right, next time, Ryan, when you say, "Hey, we're going to start doing these live," no, I can't risk doing these live. So, yes.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Jada never looks like she's not put together. She always looks good.
No, but again, and honestly, it's what I'm kind of saying is dumb because whenever you see a woman with a shaved head, honestly, even if they're just doing it, they're not. I can't think of a woman who looks horrible with a shaved head, but again, she looked great. Her outfit worked. She looked great. So that being said, you just thought it was a throwaway line. Then the internet educates you through the night, she has an autoimmune disease. She has, alopecia.
Chris Rock did a movie on black hair. Apparently,
Chris Rock did a movie on black hair. With his learning. He did
know that.
Ryan didn't know that. So yeah, and I didn't know it either until Ryan told me. So
Jordan's like, "What the fuck, Ryan? You didn't know that shit?"
Right. No, it's a whole thing. You never insult black women's hair. It's not a thing you do. You so there's two rules. You never say anything, you never say anything bad, and you don't ask black people to touch their hair. That's it. Right. That's the rule.
I have heard the second rule. I have totally heard the second rule. Yeah, don't ask black people to touch their hair.
No, but in that movie, he dives into the whole basically talks about it at a level that anyone could understand. That's not part of the community, and people were like, "Oh, he did a movie about that. He should know not to say anything." And again, it was one of those improv bits that he made fun. He said,
right.
And I guarantee
couldn't even catch himself.
No, exactly. And then next thing you know,
couldn't even catch himself.
Oh, he didn't realize how that person will receive an off the cuff comment. If it was rehearsed, that never would have happened.
Right. Yeah. So it was an interesting. Again, it was an interesting moment. Again, he was wrong. I don't think the Oscars should be taken from him. But again, if he gets hey, you can't come to the Oscar ceremonies for 2 years, or if he gets some sort of because and Shanna said this to me earlier, or it's so funny. I've seen so much content on the. I remember thinking last night. I cannot let the internet color my, inform my opinion. Or I did not realize it was going to be everything. I saw SpongeBob. I saw a SpongeBob video.
Mark Hamill spoke on it.
Everyone is doing it. So, but he's wrong. And again, if Jared Leto went up and smacked someone, Jared Leto would have been So it's an interesting thing of how did that happen? And they not just even bring him in the back to talk to him, even bring him how does it happen? And again, he's Will Smith. So again, everything that Jordan's been saying and Ryan has been saying, he is a decent human being. He's not, he's if that Kanye had done that, Kanye's gone. Kanye's in jail. Kanye's,
career would be ruined.
No, right. Yeah. Again, which is everyone who was wondering last week when we told you Kanye was asked not to be at the Grammys with Trevor Noah, not that Trevor Noah would have made a joke about Kanye, but
he probably will now.
Right. Again, I'm going to say something because I think I'll segue us into our entanglement discussion, which again doesn't mean really anything about what he did. But again,
I have one thing before
please go ahead.
Entanglement. But you do you need the joke to segue, or can I just ask you to?
No. You can. Yeah, no, I don't. It's not a joke. We're not making.
Okay, so I said to Monica, because we had a husband and wife discussion, which I'm sure you two did about this whole situation as well.
Yeah, okay.
I said yes, because and that was a meme too. Every woman this morning, hey, would you stand up for me like Will stood up? Right. I said to Monica, and I think all of us agree. Yes. We would address it in some way, shape, or form. We would address it at the Oscars, in the back, when everything's said and done, at the party, walking to the limo, something like that. But like I said, and you talked about walking Kanye off or Will off, or whoever it was in that situation. There's articles coming out now as the Academy begins their official investigation into it, where they had a very strong, apparently a very quick, strong conversation. Yo, what the fuck do we do? That just happened. What kind of precedent do we set if we don't? Well, first of all, like I said before, in the 90s, There would be no internet, Facebook, Twitter. That would be cut to a commercial, and you would see it on the 10 o'clock news, and that might be the end of it. But we talked about before, the Academy, the ratings are slipping, the viewership is slipping over the last couple of years. Like, what kind of a train wreck would that have been if they dismissed him and they were like, oh my God, who's going to win the Oscar now? Like, it was Will Smith to win the Oscar a few moments later.
And that's the thing. I don't think they know, right? Because that was the part that was skipped. I think it's probably been gone for a couple of years. But they used to always have a thing where they'd have the accountants come up to explain how no one knew.
Okay.
Like, so I don't think, but they're like, we can't have his name announced and he's not here. I'm really curious what they thought, about that.
Oh, so, I do have one thing.
Yeah, sorry. Please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go.
But yeah, to talk about earlier, where you said, like, pull him off. I mean, he got pulled off the stage by Bradley Cooper, Denzel Washington, and Tyler Perry, who what are you doing? And that's why you mentioned Denzel Washington later on the speech.
Right, later on the speech.
I mean, that's one of again, Denzel. Anything Denzel says is automatically a quote forever.
Right.
It was amazing.
Great quote, by the way. Like, that was
the devil.
Awesome,
yeah, the devil finds you when you're at your. Yeah, it was a great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, right. No, but
and honestly, it's so good.
But it's one of those things that, like,
if you're going to talk, come in here. You're embarrassing me in front of my podcast friends.
But I think in a moment, I guarantee everyone was like, "Oh my God, what do we do? What do we do?" And I mean, we've talked about it. And the Oscars for a long time have not. I think try to cater to a certain base, and that turns into really poor ratings because they're trying to go one way. And I feel like now with this is how do you? There's no good way to handle the situation. Do you take the obviously Oscar away from Will? Obviously, do you ban him? Do you ban one of the obviously best actors in Hollywood? I don't know how to handle it, and I feel like I know he's going what he's doing now. He's obviously repentful, and he's obviously trying to apologize, do the right thing, and I guarantee publicly he'll do the same thing as well. But again, I feel like for the ratings now, you can't ban them.
You can't do that. It'll be a mess.
It's a terrible situation. I don't know how they're going to handle it, but they handle it delicately because the future of the Oscars is at stake.
His acceptance speech and his apology now to Chris, again, people yesterday were like, "Oh, he ruined his career." He did not. Honestly, even if he came out today and did apologize, he did not ruin his career. He was good to go because he has such support. Now, I did find it really interesting late last night because for some reason, even though it was over really late at night, I could not fall asleep last night. So I'm on Twitter late last night, and Jaden Smith from the Karate Kid. He is related to Will. And anyway, Jaden Smith from the Karate Kid put up a post going that's, and he just put up a tweet that's how we do it.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I was like, cool. And again, it could have been about the whole thing, or it could have just been about his dad winning. So this is where, Jordan, I might need your help, and I'm sorry for what I'm about to ask you. The responses in that tweet were straight so there's a thing like wrestling Twitter, basketball Twitter. I don't know if this was
Black Twitter.
I don't know if it was. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if is there a Black Twitter? Is it music Twitter? Is it
you don't know about Black Twitter? Oh man,
no,
I've heard about Black Twitter.
I wanted to make sure that was an okay term to say. So
of course. I mean, I feel
right. So
everybody has their own group for things, and Black Twitter is this whole thing. Whatever, because
they were in Jaden's tweets with hey, well, what happened when August came around? Your mom, Will had nothing to say, or oh, speaking of and again, I apologize for what I'm about to say. Oh, when August was slapping Jada's cheeks, Will didn't have anything. It was and it was just harshness. It was just and here's a boy who, for the most part, is just supporting his, a boy. He's a young man now, so supporting his dad, and it was there was no you're gonna go up and smack Chris, but you couldn't stand up to which again brings us to entanglement. Gate.
Yeah. Well, Black Twitter does. Just let you know, Black Twitter does not mess around.
Right.
Those comments get rough. No, but
I learned about Black Twitter a couple months ago.
Oh, God.
Because there was what was it? It was something
don't watch this part.
One of a couple of the guys I worked with in LP. When I was secure, they said, what was it? A couple of years or a year or so ago, it was supposed to be the one time in 100 years or thousands of years when the moon and the sun are in the sky at the same time and you can see them both. And my friend Eric told me, he's like, everybody on Black Twitter is saying, Black people, this is when we're gonna get our powers. And I was like, and then I'm like, wait, two things. One, there's a Black Twitter, which, like Richard, I didn't know that there was a Black Twitter. And two, I mean, that'd be pretty cool if everybody got their powers. Like, that'd be badass.
Yeah. No, would it be? I mean, there's a whole thing where they're like, "Oh, yeah, Black people get their powers." I feel like everyone would freak out. I'm like, "Oh my god, Black people have powers now!"
By the way, that also feels like. Yeah, I'm also pretty sure that's Jordan Peele's new movie. Nope. Right. He's like, "Oh, hey, I was listening. M. Night Shyamalan told me to listen to these guys' podcasts, and I got a new idea." So, hey, Jordan Peele, if you want to work with us on it's called Black Twitter, but it's all about how people get their powers. So, entanglement. Honestly,
it's
what we've talked about today. I don't even think it's necessary because it really has nothing to do with it other than it was out there because people kind of calling it out. Like you clearly have an open marriage. There's things. It's always been suspected, rumor, however you say it, that Will has been either a bi man or gay, and just but he loves his wife and he loves his children. But he's again everything that Monica's talked about the book, everything Jordan said, like. You're from a culture where you're not able to say you're gay. You're not able to, yep. And then, and so then they had an open marriage and again, by the way, whatever we're talking about now, when Jada does her Red Table Facebook Live discussion about this,
God.
like we need to all like tune in. Yeah. It's going to be so real, but they've always been honest. They've always been upfront, but then like you have this, like, all this judging, and it's all we do. It's we wouldn't have a podcast if we were just like, well, let's not judge. That would have been our positive. Hey, we just came on to say everyone is entitled to, respect everyone, and then we say good night, everyone. But yeah, like what in the world is up with their world, and it's so fascinating. And now I will tell you two things. One, first off, I mean, I didn't love that he slapped him. It would have been cool if he could have figured out another way, because he really could have. And I'm stealing this from somebody in my comment section. Like, if he could have been strong enough to get up there and grab the mic and say,
"I saw that. It was good."
Don't disrespect my again. But also, who has the wherewithal or strength to do that again? But Richard Lewis was not like the greatest dude. Like, I think that's fair to say. Like Richard Lewis, while he had. He had two daughters who were incredibly famous. You know who Richard Lewis is, guys? He's a white Jewish comedian. Yeah, he's a white Jewish comedian. But Richard Williams, who we're supposed to be talking about, I made the same mistake in prep. Richard Williams. Sorry. Because they're both looking at me. If you guys can't see, if you're not seeing the,
I was like, I know Richard Lewis.
Why are we talking about Richard Lewis?
I missed that special.
So if you've ever seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, Richard Lewis is a recurring character. Sorry, Richard Williams. Richard Williams, probably not the greatest human being, not the greatest guy. Again, he pushed his girls to huge heights, but he had several other children, who do not speak highly of their dad and how he treated them. And again, like Amy Schumer said in one of her opening jokes, was like, and we're here today to celebrate the Williams sisters' dad, who you guys made a movie about instead of, just the Williams sisters. And again, that was not to get too much into that. So like, kind of like invoking Richard Lewis and Richard Williams and saying like, hey, I stood up for my family like Richard Williams would have. Like, I don't know about that. And then what do we know? What do we know about the Scientology connection? Because again, Scientology doesn't have the best rep, so
it does not. It's terrible.
It does not, but again, and John Travolta was up there dancing for a while on the stage there, but so yeah, that's the thing. Like, but with all that judging, if you judge Will Smith, the human being, I think it's a pretty good track record. Without knowing any of the background stuff like that, the person who like stands on the top of a blimp, stands on the top of a mountain, like, skydives and just pushes people in positive ways. And, I know he got made fun of in the late 90s, early 2000s for not wanting to cuss in his, in his records. Like, as my friend Eminem said, like, Will Smith doesn't have to cuss on his records to sell, like, but it's, again, like, I hope that this is just a check mark in his, in his story, and not, and not a huge speed bump, or not something that now we, but yeah.
Whatever they want to do in their marriage, like Jordan said, I'm going to let him take it away. That's their business, and that's one of those things where it's like people are going to disagree about how they live their lives. Listen, everybody finds different ways to cope and ways that work with them, and some things and reasons that may stay behind closed doors, and that's their business, right? But Jada has been very open about it, as has Will. That's perfectly fine. Again, still their business, though, right? But you do leave yourself open to comedic opportunity, to criticism and things like that. But again, like Jordan said earlier, and I'm going to, leave it to him after this, whatever they do in their marriage, it's their business. They're not hurting anybody, not hurting children, not robbing banks, not getting into trouble, no DUIs. So to Richard's point, at the end of the day, this was a mistake. Will Smith has a very solid track record as a human being, not just an actor.
Yeah. Speaking of DUIs, the Ian Smith, the Atlas gym owner, who wanted to defy.
I saw that.
Yeah, he got arrested for. Yeah, he spent last Monday, 7 days ago. He was speaking in front of the Zip Codes board meeting. Screaming about being good Americans and being so. But I was like, don't say that, Richard. Don't say it. And then you said something about DUIs. I was like, oh, spoiler, segue. The Chris Rock. So I shared with both of you that tweet about, hey, anyone who's defending Will Smith today and saying Will Smith deserved to smack him, go back in time to when Dave Chappelle was insulting trans people. And you were saying that's just a joke. Let it go. It's just a joke. So it's that kind of same thing. And you do find, unfortunately, in life that, like, that's where hypocrisy wouldn't be a word if we didn't have it. Like, people don't always mesh up what they're saying, and, and like, yeah, like, is it open season on comedians now? Which, again, and Shannon had asked me earlier, like, can you do roasts anymore? And I was like, you know what? When people do roasts, it feels like you've all agreed anything goes. And I've never been behind the scenes at a roast, but I got to imagine at a roast, maybe they say, hey, I had a miscarriage. Do not bring that up, or like, it's, I'm sure there's a couple things, but you watch some of the roasts and they really go at it. I was like, really? You agreed to let them talk about that? But all that being said, again, I don't think it's an end to comedy. I think it's just, if it makes more thoughtful people, I mean, is that a bad thing? But again, at the end of the day, Chris Rock shouldn't be at home going, man, I really overstepped. I really was out of bounds. Like, I think what he would wind up saying is like, hey, I'm sorry. I thought it was an easy, no harm joke, like, like, yeah, last week what were we saying? Like, Ryan, what about Ryan's hair?
You said I had the creamy
Ryan had a pompadour.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's not a medical condition. That's just a faux pas fashion choice,
Right.
Blow dryer and a little bit of hair gel.
Yeah. Right. But that was what comes up here is that idea of like, where do you, as Monica's saying, like, you should not make fun of, right? But like, that's the thing. Like, when he comes out, if he didn't know, like, so like if if Monica had on sorry, never mind. I'm just gonna just dig my Monica hole deeper.
Richard, she's gonna two-piece you next time she sees you. It's not
but again, if Monica, like, we do it all the time. We see people, she's wearing a scarf or something, you're doing something and you just think, oh, there's an easy joke. Like, Monica looks like, Monica looks like Katy Perry, and it's just like, yeah. So, she did try to come find me the other day. It was a little spooky. But again, it's the same thing. Like, if, you make the jokes, like, again, I'm bald right now, and I'm bald because, I choose to be bald, but again, it's all, I think about it all the time, and it's that kind of thing of like, where when you tell people to have a thick skin, and Monica's bringing up that really good point, and I think we've tried to make it on this show before, when people are like, oh my goodness, like, when they talk about cancel culture, like, oh my goodness, get over it. Like, get over it. He's just a comedian. Like, David Chappelle's just a comedian, like, but it's like, no, like for trans people, like that's their, that's like, and that's the thing. We all have the thing, we all have the thing. And I could recommend the funniest comedian to you guys. Oh my God, Ryan, Monica, you'll love this guy, Joey Smith. He's a really funny comedian. But if he does a bit in the middle about dating a girl with psoriasis and saying like horrible things, or or what he thinks are funny things, you'll be like, yeah, that guy's a jerk. Like, I'm done with him. And so we do that. We all have that personal issue, which we get offended by. But then we do that thing where we turn around and go, I gotta have a thicker skin. They gotta have a thicker skin. That feels like there's an easy joke there. All right.
Jordan,
remember when we used to edit these? Remember when we used to edit these things?
No, I know Jordan had some good thoughts on the entanglement and Will and Jada. So let it rip.
When we started a year ago, Ryan could be like, "Say whatever you want. I'll just edit it out."
No, I just want to. I want to go back over a couple of points that we talked about.
Yeah, do it.
I mean, obviously, with entanglement, I understand everyone has certain proclivities in a marriage that obviously work for them, or certain things that like. I think make them happy or make it for a better marriage. And again, who am I to judge what makes your relationship better or your marriage work? But again, I think the way it kind of came out and the way it was like turned into memes and jokes on the internet, that I think that's the part we're missing here, because no matter obviously what public opinion, obviously how that came out, whatever, I think public opinion is like, oh, you're letting random people just hook up with your wife. Oh, you're doing this, and like, what on social media? I imagine he's seeing a bunch of different memes, people commenting, people saying things, and after a while, it just all builds up. And I feel like they've been through so much in the last couple of years, and getting to that point where, like, having that happen, I feel like, again, I hate using this type of metaphor, but a straw broke camel's back, and that escalated things to a place where it didn't need to go. And obviously, to mention what you said about Dave Chappelle, I feel the same thing. I think this is just you're taking this situation to a logical conclusion where, like, it should never have gone there. It did, but you can easily see that happening in other situations with a comedian saying something that's across the line, and people just, people getting really deeply hurt about that, and then having a really bad reaction. Again, that easily goes to happen to any comedian that says anything about any different type of group. And I agree with Monica's point. When it comes to medical things, that's really kind of crossing the line. I feel like there's certain things that like maybe should be off limits when it comes to like these medical conditions. But again, I feel like a comedian's job is to push the limit. And it's hard to kind of do one and do the other really well and have that balance. And again, I feel like Chris Rock wasn't trying to do a personal bombardment. I guarantee he had no clue she was dealing with.
I think you're right, yeah.
And it hits really close to home. And Richard, your point about, obviously, I feel like everyone just plays it off like, oh, get a thicker skin. But like deep down, that bothers people. I mean, I don't know if you know this, and probably Ryan does, but when I was a teenager, I was a really clumsy kid. And obviously, getting to the point where I felt comfortable in who I was, and obviously getting better coordination, trying for different sports and stuff like that still bothered me mentally. So people say things, and as much as like you try to be tough and you try to deal with it, it bothers you deep down. It's on a really, really tough emotional level that affects how you do certain things or maybe certain interactions you might have. And I remember one time someone said something to me, and it wasn't even doing with that. It's just the constant bombardment of things. And maybe I'm a little crazy. I just replay things in my head and over again. I imagine when someone says something to you about a particular thing and it just bothers you deep down, that's what happens. I snapped at this kid, and I want to just out of nowhere just punching him. I think it was like 8th grade, and started just like really just going off on him, which is not like me at all. I try to keep everything cool and collective. And obviously, if it's a situation where I feel like I need to defend myself, that's different. But this is like out of nowhere. I didn't even talk to that kid that day, and that's what happened. And I imagine that's the kind of same situation where after so many different things and people picking on certain things and saying horrible things about Jada. This just got to the point where he was like, I can't stand this anymore. And I'm not going to let someone on national television, someone that I know is a good friend, say something mean, like say something about my wife, not knowing what she's going through and what she's dealing with. I've had enough. And again, it's a terrible situation. I'm not advocating in any way saying Will Smith was right. It's wrong. It should happen. But I feel like everyone doesn't think. Put yourself in their shoes. When someone says something about a family member of yours is dealing with X, Y, and Z condition, I imagine 9 times out of 10 people would have that same reaction, but having a cooler head and maybe dealing with a different way. I think just in a moment, people make bad decisions.
Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was just going to say real quick to Jordan's point, and we're here and there's memes out there all day long and we're all giving our opinions up. But I asked Monica because we know I'm always the wild card and I'm thinking further than the internet. And maybe to Jordan's point, maybe it might be a good thing in this weird way where Will and Jada were home today and they didn't talk to each other all morning. Right? I'm just painting a picture here. And then finally this afternoon, they were like, let's talk about this. And maybe it was a breakthrough conversation where Will was like, listen, I know that you spoke about it on your red table and we continue to talk about it and we have this open marriage and it works for us. But you don't really understand how I feel with everything that comes my way in regards to it. Right. And maybe that's a much bigger conversation because like Jordan said, and Will doesn't seem like the type to be like, make it a big deal. And to Monica's point, going back to the book where he had trauma and he felt like a coward, Monica actually said that as a kid, Will would try to break up arguments between his parents and other people by making jokes. Maybe he tried that over the last couple of years. And like Jordan said, he just reached his boiling point. And maybe today he's having an epiphany, he's having a breakthrough, and he's just like, listen, I just can't have you being that open with people about our relationship. It works for us. I'm not saying let's stop it, but how open you are about it, it's really taking a toll on my mental health. Does that sound crazy?
I mean, no, it doesn't sound crazy, yeah. But I mean, I'm thinking Jada's the boss. So.
No, I know, but anytime you go on like any type of public platform and you just air out your dirty laundry about your marriage, it's never going to end well. I mean,
no, and not at his level either, or theirs.
No, of course. I mean, I don't think at any level. I mean, there's certain things that obviously going to stay behind closed doors between obviously two consenting adults, and you might make jokes and throw barbs back and forth and about certain situations, but again, there's no reason to invite people into your situation unless you're ready for that. If you're not, don't bring it up. It's just one of those things that I feel like. I think Ryan said it great. Was obviously maybe this was a breakthrough. We'll see what happens, but I don't know. All I know is Richard, you better hide from Monica. She.
Sorry, but the funny when Jordan was talking last time and like one of Chris Rock's most famous bits is his line saying like, I'm not saying he's right, but I understand. Like, unfortunately he was talking about OJ killing someone. So I was telling the story to someone today. I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to that was wrong. He was not funny in I laughed in 1997 when he did it. Like, but yeah, like that's one of his most famous like quoted lines is like, I'm not saying he's right, but I understand. And like I say, I'm not saying Will's right, but I definitely understand. I definitely know the things. Yeah. I definitely know the things that would set me off. I definitely know, and it's funny because most people are like, oh, Richard's just a big goofball. And it's happened in my friend group and stuff like that where like, and then someone will make a mom joke and, and I go from like, yep, nope, not funny. Go F yourself. And again, I go from like we're sitting there laughing and someone will like, and again, because I am also top 10 in the country with like, can dish it out, but I can't take it. So I know myself, but I'll be there and we'll just be joking around the table and someone will be like, well, yeah, well, like your mom did last night. And I'll just be like, hey, go F yourself. You're a piece of trash, and I'll just be in my car leaving and they'll be like, wait, what did we do? I'm like, what was funny about a mom joke? Like, and again, like everyone tells mom jokes, but for some reason that's and again, if you did say something about Shanna that like she wasn't in on the joke and again, like actually just what happened, if I saw something that and Shanna kind of laughed, but then I saw she was hurt. Yeah. I would immediately be like, again, violence isn't, but again, I could also see myself like, I mean, if you really cross the line, I cannot imagine. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's why I think it's really important that all three of us have just kept repeating, like, this is not a singular moment. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a singular moment. This is, this is him. This is him on top of. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is him. Just boom, just a crushing. And I really hope. I hope this is something. I hope this is something for him. I hope this leads to like feeling better, feeling more open, maybe talking about things. Again, I don't know what hold Scientology has on his life and how much that controls his decisions. And that is again, like, I'm pretty darn open-minded about, like, I don't care what you are, but I rarely hear stories that are great about Scientology, so again, I also rarely hear stories, but again, like, I hear a lot of crappy stories about the Catholic Church, but for the most people, that's the whole thing, but for the most part, people go to church and they go, but so,
well, I'm pretty sure the church doesn't blackmail people.
Right.
He did mention Scientology once in his book. God damn it, woman! Why didn't you come on this show? You had the vacuum, huh?
Also, you're really making the librarian. You're making the librarian look like he doesn't read.
Yeah.
So, one of our,
go ahead.
One of our reading. We're doing biographies in school right now, and one of the teachers, like, she's reading the Will biography, and like that's her spotlight biography. She's like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun," because the kids will be like, "Oh, how's the story? How's the story end?" Like, well, but.
You didn't watch the Oscars, did
you? You didn't watch the Oscars, right? Yeah, that's one of the, no, you guys didn't watch it. And I kind of said we had a boy come down first thing this morning, and it was really funny. First thing he was like, "Hey, my teacher said I want to read about Will Smith. Do you have anything, like, on his reading level?" I was like, normally I would say to the kids, like, here's a book, but also, you're going to have to look up more information. So I was like, do not Google Will Smith. Just go find you a book. He made Men in Black 2. That was his last movie. Because that's unfortunately, right. That's unfortunately what happens with biography sometime in the library. It's like, you're like, oh yeah, Will Smith has met his new wife Jada, and they're hoping to have a happy family together. Like, yeah, just read this and go. You're fine. So,
but can we talk for 1 second, like, Will Smith having some, like, the greatest lines in movies ever? Mm-hmm. I mean, Independence Day. I mean,
he's Mike Lowry.
I've literally, when I was a kid, I literally said "Welcome to Earth" to everybody. I would just walk up to people punching them as a kid, saying "Welcome to Earth." Come on.
Oh, I'm actually, I made that little video today. I was like, fuck. I was like, totally missed an opportunity with the Welcome to Earth scene instead.
Oh, yep. Well, this is why we get to talk to each other more about this. But, like, I still feel like Will Smith is one of my favorite actors ever. I mean, I've obviously, being a kid from Philly, you see someone acting and doing all these different things really inspired me to be able to, like, get out of my comfort zone and do things. So, I mean, no matter what, I mean, he's still one of my favorite actors, and I don't know. I mean, don't judge me. I still think Wild Wild West is a great movie, and maybe they should reboot it. I don't know, but we'll see.
With them, I for closing thoughts, Monica takes me as the entertainment person in the family. I don't know why. We have a podcast about and things like that. She was legitimately concerned. Well, is his career over? No, not by any means. This is not the end of Will Smith's career. One thing I did have a problem with, and anyone who's read my Facebook posts over the last couple of years, I don't like Will Smith the way other people do. I kind of feel like you either don't like him or you really, really like him. I was kind of in the between, like, he did Bad Boys, Independence Day, but I'm not like a Will Smith fan. But one thing I want to say, but one thing I want to say, because in one of the articles I posted from CNBC about how they're looking into this internal investigation, I think CNBC was out of line to note Bill Cosby and Roman Polanski being two people who were expelled from the Oscars. Will Smith is not in the same category by any means. Those are two people who did awful things. I do think that there should be some sort of penalty. Monica is sincerely worried about him losing his Oscar. I don't know if that punishment fits the crime. But at the same time, and we've said it here on this episode a few times, he just really put himself in a bad spot by making sure it was on live television, on the stage, and not in the back or on the red carpet later. And that's where I think the Academy is going to have a really tough time coming to a verdict.
Yeah, and two things, but to your point there, that can work great for my closing points is, like I saw a lot of that today. Like, oh, there's so many people who did worse things. You know, unfortunately, what's happened here is Will's bad moment was on Oscar's stage, like in the building. Like he hit someone, he assaulted someone on Oscar's stage. Like Roman Polanski, Bill Cosby, the list goes on and on of like those people did things, you know, like again, and they should not be part of Oscar. They should not be part of the community for the things they did. You know, again, so it's just that thing we do. Like we look to make a point, and you know, it's like no, like Will is wrong, but also don't you know, and to defend him, just say I understand. I could see doing that in his. Don't bring up like other crappy people. Like yeah, there are crappy people. The thing I was most upset about today, and I did share this on Facebook. Most upset about today was the amount of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air parodies and jokes about like, oh, Will got into one little fight and got sent to live with his auntie and uncle in Bel-Air. And I'm like, it's just like, it's right there, people. Like, he got into one little fight in California, and now he's got to go back to live with his mom in Philly. Like, that's the joke. I mean, that's what's there. You know, again, Chris Rock would tell you the joke is, yeah, you're done. You're out of California. You got to go live with your mom. Like he needs, you know, yeah. But again, the internet can't be perfect. So, but also, like, if Will's listening, Will, like, you're talking about, as you know, the serious Fresh Prince that's on Peacock right now. You talk about an adult thing where like Will is successful and he leaves, he goes back to live in Philly because he made a mistake, and it's famous Will Smith living in Philly trying to relate to people, you know,
total reality TV series.
Just play it for like kind of seriousness and fun. So
oh god, I'm about to say a horrible joke. He in the documentary, he's like, I'm going to go check out the living room at the W Philadelphia, and he's like, hey, aren't you the guy that did a podcast? I'm like, no, that's not me. And he smacks me. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, turn the camera off. It's okay. It's cool. It's all right. It's fine.
I deserve that. I deserve it. I know when I'm wrong. So
I'm sorry. Well, drinking too much bullet bourbon.
Jordan, closing thoughts? Are you good?
No, my closing thoughts are very much the same. I mean, I feel like it's a situation that I think anyone can sympathize with. Obviously, but I feel like there's significant others being attacked, and I know he regrets that, and I know it wasn't his. Obviously, it was a reaction. It wasn't like a thought out thing he was going to do. So I just feel bad, and I wish the best for him, and I hope that everything goes in the right way, where I know he's going to publicly apologize. I know he's going to do the right things and try to obviously repent for this. It's not like he's not remorseful and he, you know, is still just going on saying he did nothing wrong. No, I know he's in retrospect now. He's like, I really messed up. I did the wrong thing. And this is obviously the biggest night of his career. And I hope that the Academy doesn't take his award from him. I know at the end of the day, he wants to do the right thing and wants to obviously be there in future events, but we have to obviously see how the chips fall, unfortunately. And yeah, other than that, I mean, I just feel bad for him because now this is starting another wave of social media stuff that obviously he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and you just remind me of. No, I'm sorry, but that's starting the podcast all over again. You just reminded me about something that I said told Monica I wanted to say on here. If they ban him for 2 years, right? That's more of I think a punishment that fits the crime.
Yeah.
But I told Monica, and as you know, and you know, Richard and I are big on montages, and Jordan, you are as well, in pop culture, and that there's repercussions for your actions, right? Next year, it's going to be like, but last year at the 2020, and it's going to be the smack, right? 5 years from now, before the Oscars come up. But 5 years ago, right, 10 year, it's going to follow him, right? He's never going to be able to have that clean cut, won the award, walk up to the stage moment. Unfortunately, these two events forevermore are going to be tied together.
And Chris Rock said it. It's also like in TV history. Like that was a moment in TV history. Like, arguably one of the top comedians of all time and arguably one of the top actors of all time, you know, so.
But, I mean, I feel like that's it. Again, this is a weird place to be in because, like, he can do that and he'll live in TV infamy forever. But, like, like obviously Bill Cosby, Kevin Spacey, they could do certain things, and everyone like is quick to like, oh, we need to forget about this. We need to move on immediately. It's like no, like, or like for example, a great example, Harvey Weinstein. He did terrible things, and in the motion picture industry, we can't forget that because you need to be able to make sure that doesn't happen again. But right. I feel like it's I feel like I'm hard to describe that, but like it's a non sequitur. Like he did something terrible. That's one particular act, and then someone else did something terrible, and that was consistently over years. And I feel like the one is being outshined by the other, and it just I feel like it's not fair. There were several
Harvey Weinstein, and I say several. There might have just been 2 Harvey Weinstein jokes last night during the broadcast. And it was like, again, like, no, that's like, no, don't mention him. He
never.
Like, don't mention him. Like, that's, like, again, it's the tough thing. Like, again, there's nothing better than a great comedian. There's nothing better than, again, we need to do a whole podcast of like our top, like, comedies, Raw, Delirious, like, Bring the Pain, like, that's a great podcast. But you know what? If yesterday it was just like the voiceover going, and now Bob Smith and Mary Smith to announce the winner of Best Documentary, like it would have been again, they would have given the awards, but it would have been fine. Yeah. Like I don't know. It's just that strange. All shows do it. All these shows do it where like they have to have a host. Like Trevor Noah hosting the Grammys is not going to in any way make the Grammys something special. Really good performances. Like if you hear that, like, oh, Taylor's going to sing with Beyonce, you'd be like, I will watch that. The Red Hot Chili Peppers performing, and I haven't done it in 5 years. You would tune in for that. Again, hearing there was going to be a Pulp Fiction and a White Man Can't Jump. Like there's all these little moments that like, yeah, like the people who truly love the Oscars, they're losing out tonight because those like that White Man Can't Jump reunion that you'll like, that's like 40th on things that happened last night now, but it was really cool, like really fun, like, them teasing Woody for being high the whole time, and like,
he looks better than all of them. I'm sorry.
He does he looks great. So
he looks fantastic.
And she looks great too. But no, it's really interesting. And yeah, I guarantee next year you can put the over under in like 4 or 5 different references to, the slap during the Oscars, like,
or like awkwardly put bit in the middle of the show, and you're like,
right,
this doesn't track well,
and it's going to go over like a lead balloon, right? So,
yeah.
All right, so we
did it.
Heard around the world, literally
we stayed in under an hour.
It's cemented in time. We wish Will Smith the best and Jada Pinkett Smith the best. We know that a little bit out of character, and we hope everything ends up well. There's a lot more to come, unfortunately, as the Oscars, the Academy Awards, the Academy, what do they call it? Just the Academy, right? They have launched their own formal investigation. So, unfortunately, this is just the beginning of things to come. But I'm sure we'll be back to give everybody the follow-up details. And to everybody who watched, I saw it was quite a few people this time. Thank you for watching and viewing in. Jordan, welcome to the show. You used really big words that I'm going to have to Google afterwards. So thank you for that and keeping the balance. And
hey, I'm trying. I'm trying to keep up. I got to make sure I get some headphones so I don't get yelled at and post.
But lots of fun as always. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody, thank you for listening. We'll see everybody next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.